Okay, so this one is a little bit harder to begin, but what I want to tell you about today is that the heart is a path, and why the heart is a path, and why love is a path. Like, I will bring some experiences, examples of what I mean, and hopefully you can relate to some of it, and then know that it is possible to make something more out of those experiences, to cultivate them, which I will briefly explain in the end. But the main idea of me making this video is a realization of mine that has been gradually increased during my life. I've had a lot of examples of events pointing me towards this. I will not bring up all of them today. What I want to focus on is a few key experiences of where life randomly has sort of pushed me into my heart, making me jump or bounce into my heart. And what do I mean by bouncing into the heart? I will give you some examples soon. Maybe I can put some words first on what I mean. When you are in the frequency of love, so to speak, there is this soft, hollow, but not hollow in an empty way, but feeling surrounding you. And you, for that moment, are aware of that nothing else compares than this, to this. Nothing else matters, to quote Metallica. I don't know if they talk about exactly this. Maybe they do. I would have to look it in with this angle soon, but yeah. I will begin with a family example, because that is most relatable for most people, even though I know that some people have a little harder time to extract any loving memories from their upbringing or their families. But many do. And for example, just this isn't so long a time ago, and it's a strong example of the reality gap that there is between when you are in this state and when you're not. Like, you can so fast lose the experience and not be able to come back to it for a very long time. But my point of this video will mainly, or a lot very much be around. I will sort of pick from different random experiences where there's experiential proof that, in my case, I reach the same sort of state of the heart and love, where I sort of bounce into the heart. And yeah, so just like I will just start with picking one. So my brother, I have a lot of fortunate memories with him, and like on my end, I have felt deeply. There's this one time when I was going home, actually, now I remember, from my first and last so far speech that I made. It was around maybe 4 years ago, and it was about a new society type that you can have inside a society. It doesn't belong to this topic, but it's about local sustainability. Anyways, I was driving home with a friend, and my brother called, and he was drunk, and he asked me if I could pick him up, and because there was no taxi or something. And fortunately, I was on their way, so it was perfect alignment, and I could just stop by and pick him up. And he went into the back seat, and that was just a random moment where I told afterwards, when he left, when I hugged him goodbye, I went out from the car when we were at his place, and he had been, I don't know, he hadn't acted very like any way special. He was just like he is, very extrovert, and talked a lot with. He's also deaf, so he was like signing a lot to my friend, and I was interpreting it. But I don't know. I just, somewhere there I felt like, and this is interesting, because I told my friend afterwards, genuinely, that I could die for this guy. And when I said that, I think I was going, like, besides from just being bounced into my heart, I was also reinforcing that with my memories of childhood, I think actually I had made some practice prior to this event, but it worked, and in that case. But he was like, there's this room that I can reach in my mind's eye, where he's always there's nothing special, like, other than that he exists, and it's a very nice feeling to feel. And I can have that with all of my family, but this was just an example. But it has to, when we live in this world, and this is the problem, that we just get up into our heads and stay there forever. And we just try to survive and forget about what truly matters. And so yeah, so that's one example. And I should put some more words maybe on other than it that he exists, but that is pretty much it. It's like, well, when I see like when you see the people you love, and you just see that they are, like, you just see them and you see nothing else. Then you know that, like, everything else is like nothing can compare. So, anyways, let's move on. And the point that I'm going to slowly get to is that this is a love that, like, this is a state of being that is possible to feel towards anything and everything, and it's quite amazing. So that's why this video is titled, probably, that's my plan now, that it's why the heart is a path. So yeah, I took maybe the most like intense sort of example to begin with here, but because it's very sensitive and you have so much experience with your family members oftentimes. But anyways, another example is more soft, I could say. I was playing floorball, which I love. It's my favorite type of play. I really love play overall, but floorball is so fun. I was playing for once, actually. It wasn't more with them because it was pretty far and I don't think they continued, but it was actually in this case as well, my brother and his friends now who were playing floorball, and I joined. And I'm really good at that game on a casual level, or like when I play with casuals, because I had a background in ice hockey and I just get into flow and that stuff easily in this. But it's the point of this example is not that. It's something a little weird that shocked me a bit, was when I was being tough around the net, standing shoulder to shoulder, doing this, trying to be like dominant on that area so that you can get a ball and score, which is something I had to learn at 12. That's how the game works and how you win. But what happened was, when I was standing there, my brother's friend, he was he was just again, like, he didn't do anything special. He was playing his game, wasn't very good at it, like, in compared to what I like had trained against, because it was just for fun. And at some point there, it was something with the sound that he made when I was hitting him. There was sort of this innocence, I could say. And the result was that I also got bounced into my heart, and I suddenly felt sorry for him. He was just trying to play. I don't know. How do I explain this event? I think it sort of has to do mentally with compassion, what you call compassion, and it is. No, I don't know if that's it. We will see if I come back to this, but I have explained this before, like, I recorded this, but that was not saved. So we will see, like, if I get the feeling again for that. I would wanna let me try, okay? I will just say that, like, I had this experience, at least, that he was helping me with his innocence. He was just like, I'm sure I wouldn't have felt this compassion or got into my heart this way with anyone if he hadn't. Okay, I will just, so to to help myself and to help this video to not be like 2 hours, I would just count up a bit quicker these other examples, because the first example showed how deeply this experience can be, I think. But then I want to prove the point that there is you can get into this heart space through random events, and one of them was during Floorball, and this guy was not showing any. He was not fighting back, or like, he was just protecting himself. He was like, almost like I think vulnerability here is a key, because I have a similar experience when I was randomly walking past the gym where I were working out back in the days, and then there was this brother to another brother. I think it was a little brother actually, and he was a beginner as well. He was a bit fat, and he joined his big brother, with his big brother's friends, and who usually went to the gym. And now he was there too, and when I saw him laying on the bench, do bench press, there was also this sort of innocence in his eyes or his face, where he was like, he probably knew that he was really bad. He was not in shape. He was really weak. And he was probably aware that he were judged, or could be judged by anyone. That's usually the thoughts you have, that you're judged by anyone if you're not good. But he was not. He was just sort of like, he had a mix of, it wasn't embarrassment, but it was like, if it was, he owned it totally. He was smiling with his sort of unorganized teeth, and when he was like trying out the bench press, and the other guys were more serious, I think. But he wasn't like unserious, he was seriously just taking this from a beginner level. I don't know, it was beautiful in some weird way, and it's made me like instantly feel like I love you. And what I mean by I love you, it's like, you all of a sudden see that happiness in someone else is very important to you. It is the only thing that matters again. Like, what else is there in this life? If you can compare. But if you can't, and which this is the problem, for most people, and me including, that even as I speak, I'm like going up and down into this, because I'm in my head. And like in a habit, I'm in my head, and then we don't see this. And then there's so much other thing, everything else matters all of a sudden. I've also had this with randoms on the train and the bus. On the train, I had done prior work a bit then towards this. When I say that, I mean like, I had freshly, I think, read a book called Living in the Heart by Drunvalo Melchizedek, and that was actually the first spiritual could you say like influencer, internet influencer to me. And yeah, I read his book and I actually got inspired from the first sight of him, because probably he walked his talk because he was just emitting sort of a universal love towards everyone. But yeah, I was into that thing. It hooked me. So not that long after that, on the train from high school and home, I sort of got bounced into my heart as well. And what happened there was that all people, I could connect with everyone. I helped with my mind to just put the focus on one at a time, and just see that, yes, these guys' happiness is so important. And it's like this sort of cliche, but we are one. That was what I experienced for that. Probably, yeah, that whole trip, and then that when you can put yourself and into someone else's perspective on the go, and you don't see any difference, like yeah, and when you can feel that towards plenty at the time, you can also conclude that it's very powerful. And it's sort of, if everyone could feel that all the time, that is the definition of when we can stop destroying and just create together. But individually, it doesn't have to, we don't have to live with everyone and everything, but we can still feel towards everyone and everything. And it's also, another example was on the bus. Just randomly, I was sitting in the back going home, I think also from high school, and the bus was taking a forest route all the time. And there was this guy who was gonna go out because he probably lived in the forest. He sat in the middle and he just raced when the bus stopped, and he looked towards my place. I don't think straight at me, but he was also this brotherly love, or like, not brotherly, or yeah, more of this heart thing that I could feel. Yeah, it just bounced me, it kicked me into my heart for some reason. He just emitted some kind of purity to me, or something. Yeah, what else? Fasting can give room for this as well. Both food fasting and also social fasting. People were speaking about Vipassana back in the days, and I got really interested. I wanted to try that, but I was kind of bold and thought that I could do it on my own, and so my mother had a cabin back then in a beautiful place with her husband, and it was empty, and I thought I would borrow it for 10 days and meditate on my own and only eat apples and like leaves from the ground, because I was also into raw food. And I had picked like bags of not even fully ripe apples, and I was going there, and long story short, or short story shorter, I was calling my mom that she would pick me up at day 3. I had not meditated all day. It was just hard enough being alone and eating apples. But I slept like a god over there. It was so quiet and dark, and nothing to do other than journaling. But I remember I think the last evening, I was like trying to say something, or like understand something profound, or like come to something profound. I was I was giving it a chance for real. I was contemplating all day long, and then there was a night sky coming up, a clear one, and I just looked at it, contemplated, I think for an hour at least. And my realization was that I haven't come to this particular space on Earth right now where I can see this exact constellation to be alone. It was pretty simple, but it came from me like sort of realizing that there must be it must be a reason for that I'm living this life right now in this body with these people, my family, my friends. It couldn't mean that I should go away from all of that forever, because this will not come again in this exact form. So yeah, that was like a social fasting sort of realization of kind of connected to this, but more connected so is the food fasting. My second fast, which was an extended one, I think 3 years ago, I did a 40-day juice fast, and my plan was to transition from there to only eating raw food, and I had my tries and failures of doing that, and I'm very disciplined, and it's not been that hard to sort of rule out the social aspect, which is such a huge thing from my life. I realized it once when I was on a ferry with my family, and we were doing a day trip to Finland, and I noticed that everything that we were, like every meeting point sort of was about, or 99 or 90% of the meeting points were around eating, like breakfast, lunch, dinner. And that was the thing that I didn't do. Or I ate fruit at that time. So I was noticing that. But yeah, on day 40 on the juice fast, I think, I was just realizing that love is important to me, and one way of sharing love is through food. And sure, I could probably reach some super high state of being through other paths, but speaking of paths, this is where I bring it back now, because love is also a path. Like you can, there are many paths to let's say enlightenment or happiness, or purpose. But you don't have to choose the one that you don't enjoy fully, because there will be one, I think. And I think most people can enjoy love and this feeling of indescribable. It's like you just step up into another dimension, actually, or step down into your heart. Yeah, like a memory leading up to that on the fast was that I started to think a lot about how much I loved a certain dish in my school when I grew up. It was always on Wednesdays, I think. It was fish, a sort of fried fish with this thing on, and boiled potatoes and salad, and unlimited, like everything was unlimited, and especially unlimited sauce. You could have unlimited white sauce. It was pretty fluid, but it was perfectly made, tastefully. So, and I tracked this memory back to just, I think the reason why I enjoyed that so much was and the school food in general was because I loved most school food, and it gave me sort of this anchor of the day of where nothing else was sort of interfering with this space of love. Actually, I think it has love. This food, as healthy food, can be love, or is love, because it just gives unconditionally, and it doesn't take away. It isn't like a drug where it just gives you and then it takes away the next day. But food builds you, and it gives you warmth and this sense of just being whole. If life, as it often can be, is challenging, and you have to challenge yourself to grow, and life challenge you, otherwise if you don't challenge yourself. But that is just 1 hour a day that you eat, or it can be more, but yeah, so this brings me, I think, to more of a conclusion, or like I want to bring the point home that this doesn't have to be random. Like any way you feel love, either if you feel towards someone or you feel loved, but that is probably always simultaneous in a way if you dig deeper, but that is a technique, or that is where the technique starts anyways. It can start. You can start with anything, anywhere you can find this, and you can cultivate it. And I need to tell one last example or maybe memory, because I owe this to my friend Ryan Burton, who introduced me in more than one way to this, that this is a practice, that this is something actually the Buddha in Buddhism spoke of as one way of reaching enlightenment, but also the best life. So I was 19 and I had found my first spiritual, similarly aged friends, two in the USA and one in, Australia. And again, it began probably on YouTube, where Cameron from Australia he had really some sort of heart opening there. He was emitting a lot of this thing that I couldn't help go towards this path. He was inspiring me for sure to make connections. He made a video about make the connection, I remember, where he had found someone online and then made a connection and met them. And we were Skyping a bit, and I was going to meet him. And then it ended up aligning perfectly so that he was going a world trip, but when he was in the United States, I could join him there, and then 2 birds in 1 stone could be hit, because Ryan was living there and he was visiting them. They were 2 of the meditation teachers that I had found in this group that we were like. I think it was at least 20 people active, maybe mostly similar age and practicing meditation, and it was all fun and that. I will at some point tell the whole story of that because it's a funny one. But now I will jump straight to Ryan and why he has helped me a bit with this heart path himself, because one funny memory was that I don't know if it's California or if it was that he had just done Vipassana prior to our visitation or visit. But he was radiating love a lot. And he even said like when the other guys were going with a truck from the mountain where we were gonna camp, and we were gonna have an awful night because of some things that we did, but they were gonna go and buy food, and it ended up being goldfish only. But we were sitting at the table at the camp in Big Bear Mountain, I think, and it was summer. It was very hot, and I ended up burning myself pretty fast, so that I had to peel off or like scrape away all my peeled off skin from later the other week because it was falling off when I was sleeping at another friend in Florida, Ron. I spent all of my money on going to the two furthest away places in America. But anyways, we were sitting there and Ryan just said, "I love you, man." It was the first thing he said, and I was like, "Wow, okay, this is how you do it here." And it was because all of his friends and that we hanged around with in 5 days, that was the way you spoke. It was like more often than not, you were saying that, you were putting that in. And I got inspired by that. But then, like, I think maybe 10 or 8 years later, I had kept contact with Ryan, and I was joining him now at meditation teachings weekly, and we had a small group, and I was finally gonna learn deeper how to meditate. And he had, by the way, gone all in since that trip. I was visiting into Buddhism. No, not Buddhism, but yeah, a lot of Buddhism, but meditation. For sure, like doing a lot of retreats and being a monk and things like that. Studying it a lot. And he has so much to say, so shout out and go to for super deep knowledge on meditation techniques. You can go to, what is it now again? After Awakening, I think it's called. But yeah, he taught me that this is a way. There is something called the Brahma Viharas. And I'm reading about that now. I'm super interested still, and I'm gonna try to explain it in my words now, because I want to master the basics and go further. And the best way to learn something is to teach it as well. But he taught me this at the beginner level, and they are basically made up of four components. I think they are also called the divine abodes, and they are for the awakened heart or something. I don't have the perfect knowledge on this. And this video is not going to be the perfect knowledge on this. This is, again, the point is to just show that there is actually concrete ways to cultivate more. If you feel called to double down on love, that is what I feel called to. And I'm just saying in this video that it's possible. Because in Ryan's teachings, when he was aiming it towards this at that time, I learned and I practiced, and I had my experiences of jumping or like bouncing into my heart again through technique. And it's the same feeling as feeling that immense love for my brother and anything. And so it's, I can't thank him enough for showing me that this was possible. I mean, Drunvalo Melchizedek, with the Living on the Heart book, he's also showing a way. But it's something that he has gotten or channeled down, I think. It's another way. I might take a look at it again, but I feel more drawn to this Buddha sort of pathway towards this, because it's so applicable. And it shows more in detail, I think, how to turn every event from your life into sort of in emotional alchemy. My hardware got full again, or hard drive. I need to fix that. Anyways, I was saying emotional alchemy, and yeah, for sure. Because for as long as I have been on my spiritual path, it has always been turning me into this, like, yes, I understand, like, this is what I'm interested in. I want to feel this love, because I know that it's the only thing that matters. And when Drunvalo in the beginning, and I very much thank him too, and I have a lot of people to thank for everything, but when he was showing that you can get into your heart, and yes, I felt like, oh, yep, I want to do that. And then Ryan comes, or with the Brahma Viharas, and says that it is possible to turn every sadness, every joy, every neutralness, anything, into love. That is my words on it now. And it's not like I think many can believe then okay, so you just bypass sadness and like push it away and go into love. No. Love is a path that can be applied to any path. It is something you can bring with you anywhere. If you're also mindful, you will be able to remember to have it every time once you learned it, or all the time. And yeah, so no, if you feel sorrow, pain, if you witness any sorrow, pain, you can use compassion. It is something I'm leaning in towards right now, because that is what I've had most amazing effects from in this technique. Actually, I have been sitting with people that I've had varying difficult relationships with, and I'm just sat with the pain that they have, or the pain that we have together, and just witnessed it. And again, this video is not about exactly how to do this, but it's just more of a why to do this. And I'm not that superstitious, actually. I know a lot of people who are, which is totally fine. But I choose just to say things that I've experienced, and in my experience, these relationships have changed. They have healed in some sort of miraculous way, actually, because when I did this towards one person, actually pretty quickly afterwards, we were getting closer, and even though we didn't talk so much, maybe it opened up me so that I can share better when we talked. So yeah, and then there is this, so that's compassion, and then there is loving kindness, which is the most famous one, and then there is the sympathetic joy, and then equanimity, and they all balance each other out. It guarantees so that you don't just bypass with, if you only do loving kindness and no compassion, then you may be ignoring the suffering of the reality of the world and yourself. And if you only do compassion and not joy, then you might go so deep and forget to enjoy life. And that is not the full capacity of the heart. And that stuff. So, am I done here? Yes, I think so. Don't want to ramble on too much here, because yeah, it's just that when you have rambled on for so long, you don't want to forget the point. So have I made my point clear? The point was that I wanted to tell you that this is a way, and it is pretty practical as well. And it leads to happiness and enlightenment, if that is something you care for. And I will, if you want, and maybe even if you don't want, put up some more videos about explaining how this works. More into the how of things. Or anything that you ask, if I feel that it's a good thing too. So yeah, feel free to suggest anything also, and share your experiences as well. I really look for like-minded people here. I don't have that many in this area so far, at least. But I think this is something that a lot of people have in common as human beings, actually. And it's a very good thing to cultivate for personal and global happiness. Yeah, okay. Let's go into this Friday night and continue with our lives. So, have a good day and night.